Good evening. It is 5:30 and welcome along to the Cabinet meeting here at Torbay Council on the 18th of March. My name's Councillor David Thomas. I'm the Chair, and if you're joining us online, a very good evening. For those of you in the room, start off with a little piece of housekeeping, and although we are not expecting a fire alarm, should the alarm sound, should the alarm sound, please exit via the nearest exit and gather in the car park next to the library. If I could all ask that your mobile phones or electronic devices are turned to silent, and should members of the public need to use the facilities, they are located through the security doors to the right of the security guard. Please note that we are using hybrid meeting arrangements with officers and councillors who are not members of the Cabinet having the option to join the meeting via Zoom, and are also live streaming this meeting via the Council's YouTube channel to encourage more people to engage in our public meetings. Can I please remind everyone to use their microphones when speaking, and then in turn make sure they are turned off. Anyone attending the meeting remotely may use their raise hand function when they wish to speak and to declare any interests at the appropriate time. If anyone attending the meeting remotely loses connection, the meeting will continue and you will have the option to follow the meeting via the YouTube live stream. So we start the meeting with apologies. Do we have any apologies?
Chairman, we have none.
Thank you very much indeed. Item 2, the minutes. To confirm as correct record the minutes of this Cabinet meeting on the 18th of February. I so move. Do we have a seconder?
Happy to second, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much indeed. All those in favour, please indicate.
Unanimous, Chair.
Thank you. We continue with disclosure of interests. If any member has a pecuniary or non-pecuniary interest, could you please raise your hand and declare that now? None noted. Thank you. And I can tell you there are no urgent items this evening. So we will move straight on to the matters for consideration. First item, and of course our substantive item this evening, is the local government reorganisation and the submission of an interim plan proposal. An absolute huge subject of local government reorganisation, and where do we start? I guess probably towards the 16th of December, when government introduced the white paper, which told us all about devolution, and within devolution included the idea of local government reorganisation. What the government have effectively said is that they have a wish to unitarise the whole of the country. So in local government, there are, of course, unitaries, there are districts, and there are county councils. And without giving you a lesson on local government structure, effectively what they're saying is we're a unitary council, like Torbay, handles everything across two-tier government. The county look after children and adults and some waste services, and the districts look after the place. So it's government's wish for those to come together in one into unitary. As a unitary in Devon, a small unitary of 135,000 populace, I received a letter from the government inviting us for our proposals to get to what was required within the letter. And what was required in the letter is government are looking for unitaries to be of a size of around 500,000 people. It's not only a numbers game, or not just a numbers game, but that is the number that's quoted in the white paper. There has been lots of, I think, conversation and certainly different figures bandied around in webinars from ministers. We've also heard that exceptions will be possible. And it is expected that those exceptions might be at around the 350,000 population mark. But to be honest, we don't really know. There has been some other speculation of maybe as low as 300,000. But at the moment, we can only go on what the white paper says. So we do need to put in a plan for Torbay against this local government reorganisation letter. And so we started to come up with a series of options. These are the options that we presented to both the Place Board, probably about 2 weeks ago, and we had a really good turnout of between 150 and 200 people at the Princess Theatre in Torquay last week, where we presented the options. And the very first option, we will refer to them as we move forward as option 1, 2, 3 and 4, and I'll explain which one is which, and then we all know what we're talking about. So option 1 effectively would be for Torbay to stay the same. In our report, there are some pluses and minuses, and what we've tried to do is to provide that same kind of situation with each of the options. There are some positives, there are some negatives. We know certainly with option 1 from our community is the most favoured option. Excuse me. Option 1 is our community's most favoured option. However, at 135,000, and if the number does remain at 500,000, it wouldn't seem to be getting anywhere close to what government have requested. And so a logical conversation that follows from starting within our own do nothing. The next step would be option 2. Option 2 would be to look at something that is known as our NHS local care partnership. So if you look at the whole of Devon, Devon is split up into 5 local care partnerships that kind of sit around the hospitals primarily. So if you think about the people that would use Torbay Hospital, that is the South Local Care Partnership. It goes from Bobby Tracy in the north down to Kingsbridge, across to Dawlish, and surrounded, edged by Dartmoor. Approximately 292,000 people. So significantly larger than option 1. Still not enough to get us to the 500,000. Opportunities for growth in that area absolutely would exist, and a lot more rurality as well coming into the mix, which is something that Torbay hasn't had before. Move on from there into option 3. Now, at option 3, the other thing that government said was they expect all councils to work together to try to bring forward a single plan. And although individuals and all authorities have been working together to try to bring forward that individual plan, It's probably expected that by the time that the plans are submitted, which is expected, which has to be by Friday of this week, it's expected that there'll probably be about somewhere between, I would imagine, 12 and 17 plans submitted. So lots and lots of options. One option that quickly came about was from Devon County Council, and that was for a single unitary across the whole of the Devon. And we'll talk about that one in just a moment. However, the district councils certainly did not think that was the right way to go. One of the comments, certainly from the minister, and one of the phrases from the minister that has been used significantly is about services being relatable to place. And when you try to consider Torbay being relatable to Barnstable, that is a little bit of a stretch. But what has come out of the districts working together is an idea that's simply become known as the 1-4-5 plan. And effectively it allows Plymouth to stay as it is within its current boundary as one. The 4 is made up of Torbay, Teignbridge, South Hams and West Devon, and the 5 is made up of the northern part of Devon and the eastern part, which of course is East Devon, Exeter, Mid Devon, North Devon and Torridge. So that is the 1-4-5 plan. Our part of that, we sit within the 4. Again, numbers don't take us to that magic 500,000. Numbers take us to around about 420,000, but a step closer. Certainly much larger population, opportunities to look strategically about where places can develop. But again, there's no instant magic solution here. We move on to option 4. Option 4 is the single Devon unitary. That is without Plymouth, and that sits at about 1.2 million people. So it certainly hits the number of being over 500,000. Government have said that there is no upper limit in this debate. So there is a minimum, and that floor that they've put in, as I've said previously, is 500,000. However, there is no upper limit. But for me, it's about how this all relates to our communities. So our recommendation, I'm just going to hold it there because I just wanted to try to explain the options that we're talking about. There will be a lot of discussion on this one this evening, I am sure. So the recommendation that's before the Cabinet this evening is, and I think it's worth getting this on the table early on. 1, in accordance with Standing Order D11, that in the light of the government's deadline for submission of the interim proposals, the Cabinet's decision set out in 2 below. This decision is determined to be urgent. Therefore, Cabinet determines that call-in shall be waived, as any delay caused by the call-in process would prejudice the public's and the Council's interest. And the Overview and Scrutiny Coordinator was consulted on the 7th of March 2025. And item 2, that the Chief Executive, in consultation with Leader of the Council, be authorised to submit an interim plan for local government reorganisation impacting on Torbay to the Ministry for Housing, Communities and Local Government on or before the 21st of March. So my apologies for a very long opening. Hopefully it's tried to set the scene to allow a full and frank debate inside and outside of the Cabinet this evening. Do I have a seconder?
Happy to second, Mr. Chairman. If I can say a few words. First of all, I think gratitude must go to you as the Leader of the Council and to Anne-Marie as Chief Executive for all the hard work you have done over the past few months on trying to resolve this situation, a situation where, quite frankly, we didn't want. We're very happy in Torbay, we're moving forward, Children's Services doing very well, adults we have the ICO with the hospital, we've got over 100 million of regeneration we're beginning to deliver. So the last thing we want is for Torbay to be, quite frankly, done away with by the government. But we are where we are, and we have to move forward on that. And you've given the 4 options. The option 1 would be, I think, most people's choice. Certainly in the consultation, it came out as the first choice for Torbay to remain as it is. However, if you look at the white paper and the correspondence since then, it doesn't tick many of the boxes. The population is under 140,000. The government want over 500,000. The government say they don't want people in districts, unitaries in isolation. That could put other parts of Devon into isolation. We will be putting that proposal forward because we believe that's the one that should be there. And I think coupled with that, the second option with the NHS Care Partnership, I think again that follows on option 1, that would be our second choice, but again it's difficult because it doesn't tick the boxes. And the third option, the 145, which has the backing of all the Lib Dem leaders of the districts, I think, Mr. Chairman, I'm right in saying, perhaps not Exeter or Plymouth, which are both Labour. And the 145 would see Plymouth with a smaller number, but it would see us working with the partners of South Hams, Teambridge and West Devon, partners that we've been working with before. And the fourth option of a 1 unitary for the whole of Devon, I think would be the worst scenario. We would end up being a little fish in a great big fish bowl. And I think we'd be assumed, and it would not be good for Torbay to go down that option. And I think for that reason, it is right that we have the 3 options. What the proposal could be just to put Torbay forward. And we are passionate that that's what we actually want. But if we only put 1 option and we didn't tick the box, it's like going into an exam. Remember when A-level, you sort of revise and you have the answer to the question that you want. And you open the exam paper and you say, oh, crikey, the one I'd done all the work for is not there. But I'm going to answer the question that I thought should be on the exam paper and see what happens. Well, of course, you end up with 0. So you need to compromise, and you need to say to the government, the one that we want is Torbay. But if we don't get Torbay, we've put down our second and third choice. Not to do that, the government, if they do go by the white paper and disregard the 1 option of Torbay, then they have no option that has been put through by Torbay Council, which I think would be quite wrong. It has to be in by Friday. The government will then look at it and disregard those ones that they don't think are viable, and then we have until November to sort it out and come up with an option. But if Torbay doesn't put an alternative that does tick the boxes, I think we might be left alone, which would be a great shame. So I'm supportive of the document going forward, Mr. Chairman, and I hope that we will get support cross-party for that, and that our good friends in Torbay I'm sure they will support having Torbay as number one going forward, but I would like to think that they will have an alternative and follow their colleagues in the rest of Devon. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much indeed. Open up debate, and we'll start within the Cabinet first. Thank you. Councillor Tymer.
Thank you, Chair. I look at this from a number of different viewpoints, but in my Cabinet role, looking after finance, I think that I can see that Torbay at the moment appears to have the resilience and strong financial base that it could make a success of staying alone. It could make a success of the expansion under option 2, and I think it could make a success of option 3 as well. Though under option 3, I have to say that I have limited understanding of the complexities and makeup and difficulties that Devon County Council appears to have in its financial viability at the moment, and a difficulty in knowing whether those shortcomings are equally spread across the whole county or whether they are more severe in an area like Exeter in terms of the demand being placed upon it or not. It is a bit of a guessing game as to what the financial outlook would look like in option 3 in terms of assimilating the Devon financial situation into it. From that point of view, I think it would be far more comfortable to stay as we are. Far more comfortable. And I certainly think that that would in some ways, in many ways, would be my preferred option as we stand today. But I recall from being a councillor some 12, 15 years ago that the boot was largely on the other foot. Torbay Council was at that time struggling financially. Devon seemed to be in a much more comfortable position, and it's quite possible in another 10 or 20 years' time it could flip back again. So I think it's important not to be too fixated on the immediate situation, but to take a long-term look at this. After all, whatever is set up now is very likely to be the set position for local government organisation for many years to come, probably for many decades to come. So we need to take a long-term look at this, and it may well be from that point of view that a bigger population, a larger population, a bigger authority would be more robust. I also seem to recall over the past years we've talked about the difficulties we've had at times in recruiting staff, the best quality staff, into a small unitary authority in certain parts of the organisation, because to the best members of staff looking to go to somewhere big and vibrant like a big city centre seems more attractive. I'm not saying it is more attractive when you actually get down to it, but when somebody's building their career or looking forward to their career, it has that look, and maybe being a larger authority would have some benefits in that regard. But we can speculate all we like. It's not going to be our choice. It's going to be governance choice. And I think the one thing that I see as an advantage in putting forward these 3 options and putting forward a clear message as we think that all of them can work is I think that we are looking at this from a point of view of saying, not only does this work for Torbay, but does it work in conjunction with Devon? I do feel that some of the submissions being put forward by, in particular, Plymouth and Exeter failed to address that overall look at what's going on, and failed to take into account that they're not the only body that's going to be affected by what's going on. We're all in Devon going to be affected by this, by the result, and I think that looking and saying just not only what's good for Torbay, best for Torbay, but what's good for Devon is a professional way of approaching this. So I'm very much in favour of going forward with the 3 options being stated, and will give that my support. But as I said, personally, the most comfortable situation would be to stay as we are. Probably the least likely of the 3 options to be accepted by government, but the most comfortable for us. I think we need to be professional and put forward all 3. The paper there explains the benefits of each, and I think it's a good paper and deserves our support.
Thank you very much indeed, Councillor. Move across to Councillor Bye.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I want to echo the thanks of Councillor Lewis to you and professional colleagues for all the effort that you are putting into this. I've seen some double acts at the Princess Theatre Torquay, and I'll have to say that you and Matthew Fairclough Kay, if not up there with Cannon and Ball, nonetheless, it was a great act. It was a great act. And you attracted nearly 200 people, which rather surprised me, given that I've sometimes emptied halls. So well done, well done. The surprise to me was that a lot of the people who were there have been very critical of this council over the years, and yet seem to be now saying they're very sad to see possibly this council coming to the end. What I don't want on a local basis is for us all to fall out over something that isn't going to be our decision. So I am very grateful that you have given me dispensation. Normally, if you're on a cabinet, you are expected to toe the line and stick to the script, but you have given me dispensation to share my views, and perhaps not for the first time, and probably not for the last time, I am just there in a minority of 1. But never mind. I am nonetheless going to support the recommendation because I think in good faith you have worked with other council leaders, councillors, and professional colleagues to put forward what you feel is the view of Torbay. And I accept that my view may not be the view of Torbay, it may be a unique view. And, you know, applause for you and this administration to put on that event at the Princess Theatre and to engage with the community and to elicit their views. There's been very little engagement, as I understand it, amongst other communities led by their councils. The concern for me, looking at, we haven't got the population statistics for the Health Authority proposal, the second proposal. The numbers, but the demography, the age. The thing that did surprise me reading through the report, I had always thought that Torbay was the oldest population in the southwest. We know that we are the poorest population in the southwest. We know that an upper tier council, whether it's a county council or a unitary authority, is delivering people services, inevitably to an older population, the most vulnerable, those who need support with their lives. The real surprise for me is that 27% of our population are aged over 65, but going in with West Devon, South Hams and Teignbridge, that actually becomes 28%. We're actually going to become a part of an even older demography. That, I think, is a huge challenge, and I think that is something we need to be mindful of. There isn't a demographic figure, perhaps surprisingly, with the option 2 with the health proposals. But I would guess as it's carved out of parts of South Hams and carved out of parts of Teignbridge, it isn't going to be very different. To me, it's a great shame that we can't find a way of working with Exeter and East Devon, which is the economic powerhouse of Devon. When we come on to the next paper about local transport, all roads lead to Rome. All roads, and certainly rail lines, lead to Exeter. That is where the growth is. That's where the prosperity is. It is a great city, university city. And I would like to have seen a local government reorganisation so that we connect with Exeter. So my thoughts on my own are very much that the fourth option, which I think is the option that the government is most likely to go with, because it is the most straightforward, I think that is the best way forward. But I respect that you have worked with professional colleagues, you've worked with the leaders of the other councils. Am I fading away? Have I been cut off? Am I fading away? I'm all right, that's good. It sounds slightly different. I accept that you have worked in good faith, and I know that a lot of people would like to see the Bay stay the same. I don't think that is realistic. That doesn't come anywhere near to what the Secretary of State wishes to see, which is local authorities of at least a population of 500,000. So we're putting forward the second and the third options in good faith as a kind of compromise, because I know that people don't share my view and my ambition, and so I accept that. So I will vote with the majority the majority I will vote with my cabinet colleagues this evening, and conclude by saying we've got to make it work. Whatever the outcome is, we've got to make it work for the people of Devon. And it comes down to the leadership. You can play around with the boundaries. It comes down to the leadership and the determination. And let's work together and make a go of whatever the Secretary of State decides is the future for Devon. Thank you.
Thank you indeed, Councillor. This evening is the first time that we've had our shadow cabinet team in place. And so as we move outside of the cabinet table, we will, of course, I will invite the shadow cabinet member with that particular responsibility in order for them to speak first. So we move outside of the table and invite Councillor Long. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Local government reorganisation provided a real opportunity to provide a united voice to government. However, as always with this administration, this has turned out not to be a possibility. Councillors Law, Cowell and myself have consistently argued for the Torbay first approach, as outlined in options 1 and 2 of the proposal. This view is supported by the public and would protect the much envied integrated care organisation which saves Torbay residents money and provides better social care services. It had been agreed, I had understood, between Cabinet and Shadow Cabinet last week that option 3 of the 145 model would be outlined in this report as one that was not supported, as it did not have the support of Torbay residents and would potentially damage our ICO. I can only think that this option has been kept in because it is the easy option for the leader to support because other Devon councils support it, and because he does not have to show the leadership that Councillor Bye talked of and articulate for what is best for Torbay residents. I have been concerned throughout this process that the administration has followed since the government white paper was unveiled has been undemocratic. Councillor Law and I have had far more information and updates from other councils than our own. Other councils are discussing this matter at meetings of their full council and not just by their cabinet clique. Overview and scrutiny have been sidelined in the teeth of my opposition as the overview and scrutiny coordinator, and my fear that the proposal would be changed once any chance of scrutiny was out of the way has been realised. Even the offer of our direction of travel report to scrutiny last week was spurned. The views of those residents who took part in the public meeting have been muddied by the inclusion of the 145 model. Those who were able to take part, that is, as those who tried to join online could not take part. We also had the leaders' report of the meeting issued several hours before the meeting took place. In the performance, maybe your crystal ball should have been in evidence. I happen to have been involved in a number of local government association meetings or conferences recently, and it's been interesting to hear other leaders' reports of meetings that Torbay's leader has been in. And the reports I've had back are that Torbay will just agree to whatever Devon wants, which seems to be depressing. If this report passes today, then I suspect that I, Councillor Law and Cowell and Amil will be writing to the Minister to outline that the 50% of the Council that is not the minority administration disagree with this decision and support the Torbay First approach alone. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other comments? Thank you, Councillor Cowell.
Thank you, Chair. And I think it's fair to say that no one wanted to be in this position of having the distraction of talking about local government reorganisation when the bigger prize would in actual fact be the devolution debate that will follow this reorganisation, or in fact is running coterminously with this reorganisation proposal. Yes, the white paper refers to the 500,000 target population for a unitary authority, and indeed the leader of the council pointed out that other options would be considered, and indeed that was in response to a question from the Totnes MP Caroline Voden. Angela Rayner was aware that there would be some exceptions to the case. Clearly, after the event at the Princess Theatre last week, and with subsequent conversations I've had with members of the public and community organisations, the absolute preference is for Torbay to continue as it is. And that's not just based on some kind of self-preservation, self-protection. It's based on the fact that Torbay has got a really positive story to tell. It's been awarded the most improved council in 2023, coming from a pretty low base, it has to be said. And I believe that despite the issues that we've had in the last 18 months, the steps that the politicians at Torbay Council have made towards resolving some of our differences actually continues to show Torbay in a more positive light. Therefore, it's regrettable and frustrating, following a positive conversation with the Cabinet and Shadow Cabinet last week, that we see the inclusion of the 145 option, which I actually think will be damaging to the people of Torbay. It also refers to the overview and scrutiny, lack of ability for a call-in, which I know that Councillor Long was consulted on, but actually said that he would not wish to waive the right for call-in because we didn't know what the recommendation was going to look like. I actually felt more confident following our discussions last week that the recommendations would be palatable to all sides of the council. We've actually found our position diluted because of the inclusion and the strong inclusion of the 145 option. The second option would be more palatable to those of us who do have that Torbay First approach. And I think it's fair to say that that is cross-party, that we all want to see the continuation of Torbay. the 145 and any other option will also have a serious impact on the relationship, as Councillor Long referred to, in terms of the integrated care organisation. My fear is that that would cease to exist because of the way in which the costs of the overspent adult social care block in Devon will have to be diluted and absorbed into any new local unitary authority or authorities. I also think that they'll have a significant impact and damage on our voluntary sector in Torbay. For the last few years, we've been working extremely well with that sector from a low starting point. Again, it has to be said, but the relationships that were forged just before and during and since COVID, I think shows Torbay as pretty unique across the country. And a lot of the reasons for that is the ability to connect because of a sense of place. Whether it's from Berryhead to Babbacombe, people feel that they belong to Torbay. People will not feel that they belong to a new authority that includes parts of West Devon and further afield and towards the east. We have a strong record on children's services. We have a good children's services. Devon doesn't. We have a strong adult ICO. We have strong financial position, which has enabled us to continue investing in our communities and into our place. I fear that that will no longer be the case as we get absorbed into those high cost areas within a wider unitary authority. So I think the real challenge is that we need to be persuading the government of the merits of continuing as a small, effective and efficient unitary authority that has proven that it can deliver, that it's innovative. So I'm in that position that reluctantly I would not be able to support the current proposals as they stand because there's too much emphasis on that damaging 145 proposal. I expected there to be reference to that and the Unitary Devon as proposals that we've dismissed because they're not fit for Torbay. So with that, it is likely that the leaders of the opposition groups will be submitting a separate letter stating our position to the Government Minister. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you indeed, Councillor. Do we have anybody else in the physical room or in the virtual room who wishes to speak? No hands? Okay, in which case, Councillor Lewis.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. A very good debate, I think, and it all boils down to Councillor Long mentioned about Torbay first. In my speech, I made it very clear that we support Torbay first, but we actually do live in reality, and when the government give you a white paper with the rules of the game, and you don't come anywhere near to hitting those rules, then your best bet is to have a second or third option going forward. And that's what we are doing. So the great speeches by Councillor Cowell and Councillor Long about how good Torbay is, we agree with you. It is great. We do want it to remain as it is, but we do have a government who've stated that they want larger unitaries, no districts, and the unitaries should be of the size of 500. That is a fact. Therefore, as the administration, we have to make difficult decisions. It would be very easy for us to go with one option for Torbay, but then we have to pick up the pieces when the government refused that, and we haven't got another option to go to, and then we would have to follow the route of Devon or the route of Plymouth or Exeter with no plan that we've got going forward. Councillor Long says it's undemocratic. I believe we've been more democratic. We've taken you every step of the way along both officers and membership. We could have taken the easy option and had a council meeting. We didn't. We thought we'd brief you, and we've had all members briefing. We had unfortunately I couldn't attend the Prince's Theatre, but it was well attended, and it gave people the opportunity. All councillors could have turned up, All 36 councillors could have turned up to that and heard. What we have done is had public consultation asking the good residents of Torbay at the same time as bringing in the councillors. Overview and scrutiny, you say you didn't have a chance. My understanding is you're chairman of overview and scrutiny. If you wanted to bring it to the last board meeting or called a special overview and scrutiny meeting, as chairman you could have done so, but you didn't. I'm sure that the leader of the council didn't stop overview and scrutiny calling that meeting. No? So as chairman, you could have called that meeting. So saying that it hasn't been to overview and scrutiny when you're in charge of overview and scrutiny seems a bit strange to me. You say about letter you will be writing. My understanding is, and you said some time ago, that you had already written to the minister. You had it confirmed this afternoon that you were going to write again, I think. Also, the Member of Parliament, I understand, wrote some weeks ago, but I understand that he hasn't had a response. Maybe Councillor Long can confirm that the Member of Parliament has had no response to his letter. We haven't seen the letters that were sent. Maybe we can share them, or if you're going to send another one with the new way of working, we can share those letters, and certainly we'll share any letter that we will be sending. I believe we are taking the responsible route as the administration of putting those 3 proposals forward, clearly stating that when the government, after the 21st of March, when they come forward, what they're going to do, we will look at all those proposals once again. It is important, as Councillor Alan Tyman said, I think, this is not something for the short term. It is certainly something for the long term, and we need to get it right. So, in essence, Mr. Chairman, I support the proposal of Torbay first. That's what we want. If it is not there, then option 2 or option 3. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much indeed. And I would thank councillors in and outside of the Cabinets for their comments this evening. I would say that I was delighted that all of the various reasons about why Torbay should stay the size it is are all already included in the report. You know, they are the fundamentals of who we are, and we know. You know, I said in the theatre last week, you know, we are the only authority in Devon at the moment where our children services are rated good. You know, Plymouth are not in that situation. Devon are not in that situation. But we do have somehow to answer the question that's been proposed to us. We can either do one or two things, as I've said before. We can either try to constructively engage, or we can just throw our toys out the pram and say it's not for me, and be done too. Now, to be honest, I'd rather be on the game, doing what we can. The comment that Torbay will just agree with whatever Devon want. Well, I think the fact that the 3 proposals that we have on the table this evening, actually none of those come from Devon. None are supported by Devon, so would absolutely fly in the face of that particular comment. And we have heard, and I mentioned it in my preamble, we have heard that there will likely to be exceptions. Caroline Vorden asked Angela Rayner that very same question, and we had some potentially warm words of encouragement. And on the back of that, I wrote to the Minister. Regrettably, I am still waiting for a response on the words that were stated in the House, which I think probably gives you the direction of travel. And when I've tried to seek clarification of that through a different route, I'm always referred back to the white paper as being the starting point, which effectively is saying, there's the exam question is set, answer it. If you can't answer it, well, nil point. So look, it's been a very, very helpful conversation, debate. The recommendation I laid probably, 25 minutes ago or something, numbers 2 parts, 1 and 2. I don't think there's any need for me to go over those again. At this point, I will move to the vote. All those in favour, please indicate.
Unanimous, Chair.
Thank you very much indeed. We move on to item 7, which is the Local Transport Plan 4, or at least the endorsement. And Councillor Billings will talk us through this.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This item seeks to endorse the Devon and Torbay Local Transport Plan 2025 to 2040 for later adoption by the Devon and Torbay County Combined Authority. We already have an existing local transport plan 2011 to 2026. This new plan will take us to 2040. The proposals in the new plan will help us deliver our vision of a healthy, happy and prosperous Torbay by aligning the vision in the Local Transport Plan 4 for sustainable growth with accessible and inclusive transport, improving travel choice to benefit the health and well-being of everyone. Devon County Council approved LTP4 at Cabinet last week with some minor amendments. The plan will be owned by the County Combined Authority once it establishes itself further, but the work will still be led by Torbay officers to secure delivery. The existing local transport plan is joint, County Combined Authority, community relations across boundaries, and all routes in and out of Torbay come through Devon, so that means there's clear, compelling logic in having a combined plan. So we already have a variety of transport plans covering specific areas, for example, the LC WIP. This plan will sit above them. Effectively, it's a bidding document to government, making clear what our aspirations, our vision and objectives are, that we've done the work to understand proposals and stand ready to deliver schemes if government allocate funding. The plan gives a clear rationale for why we are delivering schemes and how they fit into the bigger picture. It's been developed as a place-based plan, identifying priorities for each area and those for Devon and Torbay as a whole. Currently, circa £1 million a year comes into Torbay through the plan, with additional grants for specific schemes, and hopefully through the combined county authority we can achieve more. It's important that I highlight that schemes will be consulted upon in a proportionate and appropriate way. The local transport plan specifically says on page 10, and I quote, "Many of the schemes are drawn from existing strategies, for example, the LC WIPs and the bus service improvement plans, and have a level of public consultation and support. Further engagement with communities and stakeholders on many projects will still need to be undertaken to understand the level of support and consider the social, environmental and economic impacts of schemes. The delivery of the local transport plan will continue to place community engagement at the centre of project delivery over its lifespan. We will strengthen whole system engagement with stakeholders, partners, community engagement with the public through a variety of measures." Now, this point I highlight, it's very important, Mr. Chairman. This is because there are some parts, for example, in the LC WIP that was adopted previously under a previous administration, where, for example, on the second paragraph on page 24, there was a proposal to close the back road into Brixham, and I'm not sure many of our community were necessarily fully engaged on that. And so clearly this is the plan, it's the umbrella organisation, and it's just reiterating putting the communities at the heart of everything we do. So to highlight the recommendation, It is 1, to endorse the Devon and Torbay Local Transport Plan 2025 to 2040 for later adoption by the Devon and Torbay County Combined Authority. It is 2, to delegate authority to the Director of Pride in Place in consultation with the Cabinet Member for Pride in Place and Parking to make minor amendments to the Local Transport Plan 4 ahead of submission to the County Combined Authority. And 3, that schemes shall be subject to appropriate and proportionate approvals processes, including consultation. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Councillor Tyerman, I understand that you will do second this one.
Yes, sir, I'm happy to second this. I don't think actually I've got much information to add to the very comprehensive introduction that we've had.
Thank you very much indeed. Any comments, any questions from within the Cabinet? So we move outside of the Cabinet, and the Shadow Cabinet member for this particular area is Councillor Carter. Councillor Christine Carter. Sorry, I think she's online.
Myself, sorry, just wouldn't happen. It's very in-depth plan, and I've been reading it for ages. It's taken a long time to read through all that, but there's one page that I do worry over, one comment, and I'm hoping it's going to come true, and it's on page 6 of the actual plan, where it says easier travel, increasing bus and rail patronage by providing well integrated, inclusive and reliable transport options for residents and visitors in both rural and urban communities. I'm hoping that this means that there will be an increase in bus and rail services, and for them also to be reliable, because they're not always reliable, I'm afraid. So I'd just like some reassurance that easier travel is really going to come off and going to happen.
Thank you very much indeed. Anybody else in the virtual room before I come back to the physical room? Thank you very much, everybody. Back into the physical room, Councillor Long.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. And I put my hand up to speak because I remember when the consultation was launched, I think before Christmas, I and others raised the issue of bus services and the need for these to be improved where these are either non-existent or very poor. And I think there's even residents in the room this evening who have been raising bus services with me for a number of months. And the equality impacts point out that nearly 25% of people in the Bay do not have a private car. It's not obvious to me from the report that there have been any changes to the report in light of those issues being raised. So I just seek some assurance that there have been some changes regarding bus services as a result of the consultation. And the second point is on active travel. It's very welcome to read that in the report, but I do note that there have been a couple of high-profile areas where active travel has not proceeded for one reason or another, and just some assurance that that will not continually happen. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm going to come back within the Cabinet, Councillor Bye, before moving back to Councillor Billings.
Thank you again, Mr. Chairman. I mean, I'm really excited about this because there's a lot of plans for improved public transport, in particular buses. So we're talking about the improvement to buses. Priorities include investment in newer vehicles. And we know we have the electric buses coming later this year. Developing a network of at least 15-minute frequencies along key corridors, including services 13, which is the Brixham to Torbay Hospital. And wait for this, my colleague Hazel Foster is sat there behind the screen, the 22. So the 22 has become increasingly popular. At the moment, I think it runs every half an hour. It links parts of Wellswood in one direction as far as Dawlish and Dawlish Warren, and goes all the way through to the town centre, to Paynton and the college in the other direction. That's going to be every 15 minutes. That's really, really good news. To improve technology at signalised junctions to give buses priorities on key corridors, increasing frequency and accessibility of services across the community. So there's lots of very good news. And I was particularly excited, and I haven't got it in front of me now, but when I read through earlier, better connections with Exeter Airport and better connections with Exeter employment areas to the east, again through coaches and new bus links. So really good news. I think that should be good for tourism. Inward tourists flying into Exeter. Exeter at the moment, it's sort of people fly out. Wouldn't it be great to have people flying in and then getting on a bus and coming to Torbay and spending their money? So it's really exciting. And also the trails for cycling and for active travel. So there's lots of good stuff in there for Torbay. Well done to my colleague Adam Billings and those who have worked on this.
Thank you, Councillor. And just before I bring back Councillor Billings, I think we've spoken about some of the great stuff in this document. We also need to remember where this document is going to be sitting in future. So it's going to be sitting with our new combined county authority, which is an opportunity to bring money directly from government into local transport in a way that has never been able to be achieved before in Devon. Doesn't necessarily mean that it is brand new money, but the allocation of it, or more importantly, the way it is spent, will be in line with the proposals that we're highlighting here. And that's what makes it exciting, and that's what makes it sincerely very different to what we've had in the past. Councillor Billings.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As I spoke earlier, it's important to realise what we've got here is an umbrella bidding document aimed for government bringing money into Torbay to deliver these important projects. I want in the future it to be Edginswell Station that's built, not necessarily the one in Marsh Barton, because I want to put Torbay residents first and bring government money into our area rather than it going to other places in Devon. So this is very much a case of putting our best foot forward, working in a collaborative way with our partners. Now, taking the points that Councillors Carter and Long referred to, first of all in relation to buses, I'm really pleased that this administration is putting forward unprecedented subsidy into our buses, £220,000 a year versus £150,000 previously, and I've shared with group leaders the emerging plans for the bus service improvement plan for 2025, where we've got improvements to the service 22, 13, 31, 35A, 35C, 65 and 120. All of those important services which we're looking to improve through the bus service improvement plan, recognising it's the bus service improvement plan that's taking that specific aspect. I, like Councillor Carter, want to improve the reliability of our buses, and we meet very regularly with our delivery partners, Stagecoach, Torbay buses and Country Bus, and make that point very clearly. In relation to active travel, I've spoken at full council in relation to the enthusiasm I've got for projects in the LC WIP, for example, the Hospital Trail, and I look forward to updating all members in terms of the delivery of those in due course. In many respects, some of the points that were made, Mr. Chairman, I might say it's those lower level documents which are actually more key to delivering these things. This is that umbrella document that's providing the framework within which everything sits. But I'm sure we'll have some good news, and I look forward to talking through with all political groups around these improvements in due course. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. The proposal has been made and duly seconded, forms 3 recommendations that have been previously read out. So with all that done, we will move to the vote. All those in favour, please indicate.
Unanimous, Chair.
Move on to item 8. I would just mention that we're going to be taking a short break, a very short break at the end of item 8. Item 8 then, local electric vehicle infrastructure. Councillor Billings.
It's a recurring theme tonight, Mr. Chairman, isn't it? So it's these exciting things to tell our residents in relation to transport improvements in the Bay. So this is a report in relation to local electric vehicle infrastructure, and this item seeks to delegate authority to the Divisional Director of Planning, Housing and Climate Emergency the ability to award contracts for Torbay elements of the Devon and Torbay local electric vehicle infrastructure project, which is funded by a specific grant funding award from government. The project will expand the number of rapid, that's 50 kilowatt, fast, that's 22 kilowatt, standard, that's 7 kilowatt, and lamp column charge points. And due to the objectives of the project, the funding will see more on-street deployment with typically less than 20 kilowatt charging going forward. So we've already started a programme of delivering rapid chargers in our car parks, and so far we've seen 2 chargers in each of Brixham, Paignton, Torquay Town Hall and St Mary Church, the Hampton Avenue areas. So far we've had 456 users use them, 1,414 charging sessions have been completed with an average charge time of 43 minutes. The programme's continuing. We're rolling out charging points in St Mary Church, Chilcot Close, Livington Road, Brunswick Square, Shudden Hill, all in Torquay, Preston Gardens, Colin Road and Churchwood Road in Paignton. This new programme expands on what's been achieved thus far, the Council having received 928,000 capital from government for the investment, and we're currently completing the process of procurement and plan to deliver the project, if approved tonight, in late 2025. It's a joint procurement process with Devon to increase a value for money and enhance our ability to deliver at scale, which is what the funding body requires us to do. The key aims of the project are to deliver a step change in the deployment of local, primarily low power, on-street charging infrastructure across England, and accelerate the commercialisation of and investment in local charging infrastructure. According to national figures, across the UK, per 100,000 population, there are 82 chargers in England. Per 100,000 population, there are 76 chargers in the southwest, and there's only 24 in Torbay. The data assessments undertaken so far suggest that by 2035, Torbay needs 800 publicly available charge points. Currently, we only have 34. So we clearly need to do more at pace, with a focus on having the right charger in the right place at the right time. And this proposal before us is our recommendation to get there. So just to highlight the recommendation for reference, that the Divisional Director for Planning, Housing and Climate Emergency be given delegated authority to award the concession contracts and associated land agreements to be undertaken in accordance with advice and guidance provided by Devon County Council Procurement Team and Torbay Council's Commercial and Legal Services for the delivery of the programme up to the value of the Capital Grant Funding Award. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much indeed. Seconder, Councillor Jackie Thomas.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Councillor Adam Billings. I think that was a very detailed report there regarding the local electric vehicle infrastructure. I don't feel there's any much more I can add to that. So happy to second, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Open with debate. Councillor Lewis.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Speaking with my hat on for carbon emissions and saving the world, I think that we are behind on electric charges in Torbay. It's a shame that more hasn't been done in the past. It is vital that we catch up, and this is the start of it. It's vital because many of our residents live in flats, and if they're encouraged by government to purchase electric cars, they need somewhere to charge them. They can't all charge them outside their back or front door. So it's vital for the residents of Torbay. It's also vital for the businesses of Torbay, because being nearly at the end of the line, but not quite, a lot of deliveries will come down from London and other places in the Midlands and will need to charge their vehicles. And we need those charging points so that they can get home. There could be an argument that they should stay overnight and charge it overnight. But we need to make sure that we are supporting our businesses by providing enough of the electric chargers. And of course, more importantly, is our visitors, people coming down and staying in hotels, B&Bs and other accommodation. It is important that we give them that facilities so that they can travel around the bay and again, like the businesses, get home safely. So thank you for this, and I'm very, very happy to support it. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much indeed. I'm seeing no more hands within the Cabinet, so we will go to the Shadow Cabinet Member in the first instance, which will be Councillor Carter. Thank you, Councillor.
Comprehensive report, this one, isn't it? And some of the stuff I really don't understand with this electric charging, very difficult. But did I hear right that Councillor Billings said that they would be installed this year? Does he mean the end of this year they will be all installed, or is it longer than that?
Thank you. We'll pick up that question in just a moment. Anybody else from the virtual room? Got any questions there before I come back to the physical room? No, in which case I'll move across to Councillor Long.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and it was good to hear Councillor Lewis's fulsome support for environmental projects. I'm not sure that some of the reforms supporting backbenchers in his group would necessarily agree with him. I was interested to hear from Councillor Billings that the chargers that are already installed in some of our car parks were this administration's initiative, as I'm pretty sure that those projects were started by the previous administration.
Yes.
But I also just wanted to back up Councillor Carter's question as our excellent Shadow Cabinet member. The ones that are already installed, I think, took 7 years because of procurement, etc. And I just wanted an assurance from Councillor Billings that the ones that are being proposed will be rapid, more rapid than that. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't think there are any further questions. My apologies, Councillor Cowell.
Thank you, Chair. And just to reiterate that point, that it was extremely frustrating when we asked officers to go away and roll out charges to begin with in our car parks, and then we were beset with issues around procurement. But as an electric vehicle owner myself, I welcome the additional capacity that is going to be rolled out in Torbay. I'm fortunate I have a home charger, and we also have charging facilities at my workplace. So I tend not to have the challenges, but I know that when you're using your vehicle on a longer journey, then you have to plan your charging timings, and you don't actually have to charge overnight. If you come to Torbay, you can actually manage your breaks when you're driving a car to charge at some of the rapid charging stations that exist at our service stations. I welcome the fact that a lot of these are going to be in our communities and our residential areas, because that is where some of the real challenge is. I can't imagine what the infrastructure actually looks like for the lamp charging points. I would imagine that they would have to be quite low voltage and therefore would be a trickle charge overnight. But I can envisage lots of our lamp posts having cars plugged into them as we move forward, which, given that most people don't, or a lot of people don't have driveways or immediate access to plug their cars into their property or on their property, will have to be, is very much welcome. And I look forward to the accelerated rollout of the 800 over the next coming year or so. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. There we go. Councillor Billings, no pressure, 800 by the end of this year.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Taking those questions in order, I explained earlier that delivery would begin late in 2025. I didn't say we'd install all 800 by the end of the year. That would be an impressive feat. So my aspiration and advice from the team is that we will certainly start installing them at the end of the year. So that's in relation to the question from Councillor Carter. In relation to the question from Councillor Long, I said earlier that through the previous programme, my reference to we was a reference to Torbay Council for absolute clarity, and as Councillor Long explains, it may have taken a previous administration 7 years to take the previous project through procurement. In relation to my answer to Councillor Carter, my aspiration is it will take this administration 6 to 9 months. And in relation to the questions and comments from Councillor Cowell, yes, I agree. I haven't seen the lamppost charges either yet, and I look forward to seeing how those fit and integrate in our area, because clearly they're one of the easier solutions to deploy, because there's already some electrical connectivity there, and finding a robust delivery solution for that with the appropriate partner seems to be key in my mind also. So thank you for those comments. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. We shall move to the vote then. All those in favour, please indicate.
Unanimous, Chair.
Thank you very much indeed. I'm going to take a 10-minute comfort break, and we shall return in, where are we? 10 minutes time. Thank you very much indeed. Welcome back. We will move straight on to item 9, which is the Local Government Association Adult Social Care Preparation for Assurance Peer Challenge, which is a very, very long title, but really, really important. Councillor Chanter.
Thank you very much, Chair. So this item is that Torbay Council Adult Social Care Preparation for Assurance Peer Challenge report and action plan be approved as set out in Appendix 2 to the submitted report. In June 24, Torbay Council invited the Local Government Association to undertake a peer challenge on our adult social care preparation for assurance. Our peer review action plan outlines the key areas of improvement identified during the Torbay Council Adult Social Care Preparation for Assurance Peer Challenge. We can see from that action plan that a huge amount of work has already started, and the continued progression of that action plan will assist us in improving on the experiences of Torbay residents and for us to deliver our vision of a healthy, happy and prosperous Torbay. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much indeed. Took me by surprise a little bit there. I think it was after listening to Councillor Billings' lengthy introductions. Move across to Councillor Bye.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm very pleased indeed to second the recommendation that the Torbay Council Adult Social Care Preparation for Assurance Peer Challenge Action Plan be it's not funny. I'm trying to be serious. Be approved as set out in Appendix 2 to the submitted report. Integrated health and social care absolutely runs through Torbay Council, as they say, like Blackpool, through a stick of rock. So 12 months ago, very nearly, we invited the LGA to come and conduct a peer review. Not a peer review as in Blackpool, but a peer review as in other highly qualified people to come and see how we are getting on. So they reported on our arrangements for adult services, adult social care, and it is by and large a very positive report. It's an extraordinarily lengthy and comprehensive report, which I appreciate they came last June, and that report presumably was published shortly thereafter, but I haven't actually read it until earlier today. There's lots of recommendations, so there's lots that we are doing well, but there are recommendations on things that we can do better. And therefore, responding to those recommendations, we have drawn up an action plan. So absolutely right that we do our best, because we will be getting the CQC to come and inspect us for real, as it were. So this is an LGA pointing us in the right direction, suggesting how we can do better. The CQC will come and do it for real, presumably within the next 12, 18, very soon. They'll come and be inspecting us. So we want to be able to put forward our best case that we are supporting the most vulnerable people, the most vulnerable adults in the Bay in the very best way. The report absolutely highlights our lead member, saying that you are a champion for, I should have the word in front of me, but you are a champion for your cause, as it were, a champion for the job that you do, but there's a fantastic compliment there. And very, very highly regarded, Joe Williams, our Director of Adult Services. So you get very, very high marks there. And they're suggesting that a great risk is your imminent departure. That can't be the case, because you have a marvellous successor. No one has ever said that I've posed a risk of any organisation because I might be about to leave it. Most people sort of wave you off. But we are very sorry to, and this is going to be your final cabinet meeting. I know how much you were looking forward to it. But there we go. You are there highlighted in this report, as is Councillor Tranter. And that's unusual, I think, for the lead member and the director to be highlighted in such favourable terms. But the action plan, we will all embrace the action plan. A lot of what has been recommended has already been put into place. So thank you so much. Delighted to second.
Thank you very much indeed. Anybody from within the Cabinet? Any comments or debate? In which case, we shall move to the Shadow Cabinet Member, which will be Councillor Douglas Dunbar. Good evening, Councillor.
Good evening, Chair. All I've really got to say is that I think it's been a very good, positive piece of work, and it's we're looking forward to it actually coming back to overview and scrutiny in the months to come. So I'm really impressed with it. But may I also take this opportunity to thank Jo for all of her hard work. And I'm going to say Hayley, if she'll forgive me for the moment. And also welcome Anna as the new Director of Adult Social Services. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So, my apologies. Sorry, I don't think I cut her off in her prime. Okay, thank you for that. Really much appreciated. Councillor Long.
Just to say, it was good to hear that. It's good to hear Councillor Wise' fulsome support of the integrated health and social care system in Torbay, which has not always been the case. And I just wanted to say that this peer report is not a surprise to us, because it was as our director warned us it would be, and she was absolutely spot on. So it was good that. Her knowledge of the area was absolutely spot on with this report. I wanted to particularly highlight from the action plan, item 8, some work which has started, which is to develop the equalities, diversity and inclusion work with increased use of data to demonstrate need and impact and improve visibility across the council and the Care Trust, and ensure it is a thread through strategies and plans. I'm always a supporter of threads through strategies and plans, but I wanted to thank Jo Williams particularly for her support for me banging on about equalities and diversity, and for her making sure it got included in the action plan. So thank you for that.
Thank you very much indeed. We'll come back to the Cabinet. Councillor Bye.
Thank you again, Mr. Chairman. I found the bit that I was searching for. So the portfolio holder describes herself as a champion for the sector, bringing experience and a clear passion to help people, and has grown in knowledge and experience since taking on the role a year ago. So I think that's a fantastic thing, and I just wanted everyone to be aware of that.
Thank you very much. And I just wanted to say a little bit about peer challenges, to just explain exactly what they are. These are when an authority invites the local government association in to actually scrutinise a piece of work. Why would we possibly do that? Basically, pure and simple, to help us improve, to help us innovate, to help us to be the very best we possibly can. And if you look at the number of peer challenges that we've had over the last 18 months, it has certainly been significant. And I think that is basically members just absolutely being up for that challenge of improvement and getting to the next level. So it's a great piece of work in the peer challenge. It highlights to us some of the areas that we already knew about, highlights maybe the odd area that we hadn't kind of looked at. So well done, and more than happy to support this evening. And I think that's all of the words said. We shall move to the vote. All those in favour, please indicate.
Unanimous, Chair.
Thank you very much indeed. Move on to item 10, which is the public awareness of recycling bins. This is a report from the Overview and Scrutiny Board. You may recall that last month I said that it would come back as a separate report, and here it is. Thank you. Councillor Billing.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In view of your comments about the comprehensiveness of previous answers, I'll try and make this a little bit more brief. The recommendation from Overview and Scrutiny was that the Cabinet be recommended to request Swissco raise awareness of recycling in public bins to reduce the risk of contamination of recycled waste and enabled it to be processed effectively. We have for this meeting a comprehensive response, and the key part is at the bottom where we confirm that Swissco have tried a number of engagement initiatives involving stickers and signs on or around the bins to educate the public about what materials should be disposed of in the recycling bin and, more importantly, what condition they need to be in, e.g. no food waste, and will continue to do so in areas where public bins are provided. What you have in the earlier part of the answer, though, is an explanation about some of the difficulties with this. So this is where we have dual public bins, where there's a recycling component and a residual waste component. The staff members will use clear plastic bags. When those bins are emptied, they will manually look through to try to see whether the correct waste has been put in the recycling component. And if at that point it looks like it's contaminated, then that collection of potentially recyclable products will be simply put in the residual waste. If it passes that visual inspection, it will then go through, be stored at the waste transfer station, be put with other waste that's come from that type of collection point, and be sent to a third party. If it's found to be contaminated at that later stage, then the whole consignment will simply be sent for residual waste incineration, which means there will be additional costs involved. And this is why these dual public bins are difficult. Their purpose is very laudable. However, having been on some of our recycling collection rounds at very early hours of the morning, you can see on different roads you will have very well presented recycling bins, and on other roads far less well presented recycling bins, and clearly recognising that variety in relation to the way we as society engage with recycling public bins. Recycling public bins will always be a difficulty. So the answer is what it is. I look forward to any questions, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Councillor Lewis to second.
Happy to second, and as always, I think Councillor Billing has covered it very well indeed.
And don't forget that was the shortened version. Thank you very much indeed. But really well covered and appreciated. So comments, questions from inside the Cabinet. Okay, let's move to the Shadow Cabinet member, Councillor Carter. Obviously, this original report came from the Overview and Scrutiny Board. So I presume, or maybe you'd be so kind as to tell us your view now based on the response that you've heard from Councillor Billing.
Yeah, and I mean, it's a really tricky subject, isn't it? It's such a problem. And I just agree with Councillor Billings with what he's just said. And the only thing we can do is just keep messaging and messaging, isn't it? That's. I can't see any other thing you can do, really. There are a few things that they do in Germany, which is quite it's good initiative, which they work with manufacturers with tin cans, and in parks you can recycle your tin can and you get tokens back to spend in the local shops. Does encourage especially the children to go and pick up the tin cans, and that's working with the manufacturers of the tin cans as well. But that works quite well. Maybe there's something like that that we could look at in the future. But yeah, very tricky problem.
Thank you very much. I presume that's a national scheme, was it, Councillor Carter?
Oh yes, national scheme, yeah.
Thank you. Anybody else? I'm going to go to Councillor Tyerman and then Long.
Just a short observation. And unless things have changed, my memory is that as a nation, we're aiming to bring in a refund scheme to cover certain items. That may well encourage members of the public, even when they're out in public, to take them back to get their refunds, and actually that may, to some extent, a small extent, actually help address the problem of recycling in that public arena. So I think we've got that coming. It would be, when that comes in, it would be interesting to see whether that does actually have a beneficial effect, however limited that might be.
Thank you. Councillor Long.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to ask specifically about Upton Park in Torquay, which got dual-use bins as part of the town deal improvements. Being the sad person that I am, when I was walking my dog through there this morning, I happened to observe that the bin liners in the recycling components of the bins were not clear. They were the same liners that were used for the residual waste component, which would suggest that the recyclers are going straight to the energy from waste plant. So I just wonder whether that could be checked. And as a regular user of that park, which sounds a bit bizarre, I've not been aware of any educational signage to advise people what to do with their recycling. Thank you.
Thank you. Move back to Councillor Billings to wrap up this item.
Well, Mr. Chairman, it's really helpful that Councillor Long, in his capacity as a ward councillor, provides these observations. This is an opportunity, as all councillors have on all occasions, to feed through comments on either the Swissco Report It app or to me as the portfolio holder, so that these historical issues that have been inherited can be addressed, and I'm sure the team will be addressing those, Councillor. In relation to the comments from Councillor Carter, I agree with both her and Councillor Timon that a national refund scheme might be a better way of trying to encourage recycling. One is due to come in than dual bins. I think dual bins, because of that inherent problem, if one user contaminates, then the entire load can't be sent for recycling. I think that's an inevitably tricky ask, however good the signage is, and look forward to seeing what happens with regards to the national refund scheme in due course. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. And my apologies, Councillor Foster. I never saw your hand there. So let's go to your point now.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I wasn't hiding behind the screen on purpose. I've got a bit of a cold, so I didn't want to sit where I could spread it. So I welcome that the trial has taken place. I do feel as to whether Upton Park was the right place to take it. Members will remember I've mentioned it a number of times at council meetings for Babbacombe Downs to be the ideal place for a trial, and you know, in my opinion, it might have had a different result if it would have been more in a place where it's recognised for its beauty. People might have took a bit more pride in the area with the waste. But so it is disappointing that the right stuff hasn't gone in the right box. But it is about education. So it was just really, you know, that we do need to keep up with schools. I think, you know, this is where the youngsters, the children, that's where it all starts. It'll be the children that will be telling the parents, no, mum, you've put it in the wrong box, that sort of thing. So I think we need to keep the education going into schools. And of course, we do need to keep the education going about the recycling boxes that we all put out. And it's making it more available for the labels. I know the labels that go on the boxes. Unknown to me, I was putting one item in the wrong box, and it's because the labels have changed and I didn't know, and it was an old label and I was following the old label. So it's about keeping information up to date so that residents know exactly what to put in the right box. And when I was on the Climate Change Partnership, I did raise a few times with them about our larger organisations. So you go to the football ground, you've got bins everything goes into the same waste bin. So it's about getting other organisations, and I have already mentioned it to them. They are aware of my moans and groans. You know, why not a particular bin for the tin cans and the plastic bottles? They can then be recycled, where the food waste and other things can go into another bin. So it's not just Torbay Council, it's about Torbay Council working with lots of other organisations, schools, businesses, everybody, and we all do need to recycle more and to make everybody more aware. So although this hasn't succeeded, I do hope we're not going to stop, and that we can keep going, keep trying to get that message out, how important it is to do our recycling. Moan over.
Thank you very much indeed. We shall move to the vote then. All those in favour, please indicate.
Unanimous, Chair.
Thank you. Move on to item 11, which is the Member Champion for Culture. And I think it is worth just reminding ourselves what Member Champions are. So member champions are elected members who act as an advocate or a spokesperson for a specific area of the council's business. And their main responsibility is to encourage communication and positive action over the issue that they represent. On the 19th of September 2023, the Cabinet appointed Councillor Maddison as the member champion to champion key aspects of the council's work in respect of culture. Subsequently, on the 11th of February this year, the Standards Hearing Subcommittee considered a complaint that Councillor Maddison had breached the Code of Conduct for members. In their determination, the Standards Hearing Subcommittee made a recommendation to myself and hence the Cabinet in respect of Councillor Maddison's appointment as the member champion for culture, and that was effectively for a suspension from the role until such time as a number of conditions were fulfilled. However, we then fast forward to the full council meeting on the 27th of February, and given the behaviour of Councillor Maddison at that meeting, the Cabinet effectively doesn't have confidence in Councillor Maddison to represent the Cabinet in the kind of light that we would expect a member champion to portray. Culture is an important part of everything that we do in Torbay. We've got some new emerging relationships with the Arts Council and also English Heritage. And it really is absolutely important that they are nurtured and that they are brought to fruition. And therefore, it is extremely sad that I have to bring forward this evening a motion, thanks, that's what I'm looking for, that number one, Councillor Maddison be removed from the position of Member Champion for Culture, and that two, that the Leader of the Council ask all members for expressions of interest in undertaking the role as and when it is re-advertised. So, as I say, an extremely sad event to have to bring forward on this final item. I had, let me take a seconder first. Councillor Chris Lewis.
Very much. I will second this. Thank you.
Thank you. At this point, I had really considered the best way of trying to deal with this particular item to ensure that we didn't have any repetition of the previous council meeting and to also ensure that the Council and the Cabinet meeting could be seen in the best possible light. I did ask group leaders and Councillor Madison if they wanted a debate or if they did not want a debate. There was some conversation, considerable, that went backwards and forwards. I have agreed this evening to allow debate, so we will be having the debate. However, I would respectfully request that everybody conducts themselves in a manner that is becoming of them as an elected member of the council. To remind all members that you have all signed up to the Code of Conduct. The Nolan principles, of course, are in play. And for this Cabinet meeting is not here to rerun a standards hearing. It is not designed to do that. It is simply responding to the request coming forward from the Standards Hearing Subcommittee, and I've outlined why we've got to where we've got to. At that point, I will open up for debate, and Councillor Long has already indicated, so I will allow him to speak first.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. And I think I indicated when we spoke earlier that I was very concerned that this item had been brought forward. My reason for saying that is that it reopens old wounds and stops the council moving forward and potentially harms relations between the groups. And I think I also said to you that I fear that Cabinet seems to be setting themselves up as judge and jury on councillors' behaviour, which in my view is beyond the remit of Cabinet. If members of the Cabinet were unhappy with a councillor's conduct at a council meeting, then the correct process is for a complaint to go forward to the monitoring officer and not for a public shaming at a Cabinet meeting. For many members who sat through the Standards Committee, it did not feel like a positive experience, with what many felt to be a rewriting of history.
Councillor Long, can I please remind you to keep it to the matter? We're not here to go over the case. We're here to discuss the matter that's on the table this evening. Thank you.
And the Standards Committee was referenced in the agenda item. My apologies, but the Standards Committee of the 11th of February, the decision, and that was the point that the Cabinet became involved when that decision was passed down to the Cabinet. And that's the critical key point. And I was explaining myself that the reason that this item on this Cabinet meeting reopens old wounds is that Standards Committee rewrote history with claims that members such as myself had engendered a hostile atmosphere in the lobby, and that was not the case, and there has been no right for anyone to say otherwise. And nothing positive, I fear, will come from this item. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Long. Councillor Cowell.
Thank you, Chair. And, you know, it's really, really unfortunate that we're in this situation here tonight. And referring to Councillor Madison's role as the member champion, I know that she's been incredibly frustrated by the lack of facility she's had to be able to promote that role in terms of working with officers or the Cabinet member. I know that she's approached the Cabinet member in the past for discussions about ideas and how positive working can move forward. So it somewhat diminished and demeaned the role in that circumstance. And I think it's something that is justifies wider consideration as to how member champions operate and what their actual role and remit would be. I think it's regrettable that the incident that has led to the Cabinet making this decision was as a result of Councillor Madison trying to set the record straight and put her view forward at that council meeting. Separately, there will be lots of ongoing further steps taken by Councillor Madison and others in terms of that whole process. I do find it deeply regrettable that we're having made our peace, if you like, following the 18 months of division and somewhat a hostile environment that, as Councillor Long refers to, this risks opening up those wounds again. I, for one, and I think it's fair to say that all of us will work to ensure that that doesn't happen, but at the same time we need to recognise when there are some flawed situations in our standards processes, which is reflected nationally as well as locally. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. And I think, in all honesty, the three group leaders have worked incredibly hard for the last 12 months to pull together the leaders' agreement. We have written within there, it almost feels as though part of my heart sits within that document. So it is something that none of us will want to just rip up and tear away. It's much more important than that. Councillor Madison.
Thank you. Evening, everyone. It's actually somewhat ironic that you are in this sort of period of love-in, because something that Prosper Torbay wanted to promote, you all working together. So actually it's kind of nice to see in a very weird way. But I would like to say that it is incredibly unfortunate that the Cabinet has decided to exceed the recommendations of the Standards Committee. And let's not forget that the Standards Committee also did the same, exceeding the recommendations of the independent investigator. I think I don't need to go any further into that other than to say that those facts actually make very clear that I think the lack of proportion, lack of judgment, and presence of an agenda related to this item on tonight's docket. I think that it's important to say again, echoing what Councillor Cowell said, that I did attempt to, I offered my cooperation to the Cabinet Member for Culture, but it was not exploited, and that I called officers who chose not to reply. And in fact, this whole episode tonight, where I have been told just 5 minutes before speaking now, that I would not be allowed to mention anything prior to this evening, is a kind of example of the deep lack of democratic urge that lies at the heart of this administration, and I think this needs to be mentioned. It is not normal in any investigation, in this country anyway, to completely omit a defence, and yet this is what you are doing, and you must wonder what the reasoning is for that. I think it's pretty clear that it's a personal vendetta, a political vendetta, and these are issues which I will go into in greater depth in a different place, probably on Facebook for a start, because I think it is very important. It is now a matter of public interest. The public interest is engaged. They do need to know who is running the administration. I think it's necessary that they know how far those who have pursued this complaint are prepared to go. I think they should know where the political parties stand with regard to this sort of institutional abuse of councillors. This is all related to what's happened tonight. This is nothing to do with the past. So I think I'm allowed to say it, yes? I think it's also vital that the public have the chance to get behind the right of councillors to speak freely, and that councillors should end up reassured that they can and should speak to represent their communities, that they can and should protest their concerns about the way their councils are managed by officers, and protest this robustly at times and publicly when the facts, the matters being raised are not taken on board privately and within the council. Because we're not here as councillors to rubber stamp officer actions and nor to keep random seats warm, as I think I said many months ago. So, in a sense, I accept the Cabinet's decision. I think that the role of champion was near impossible in the context of this administration, sadly. But there is a great deal that lies behind what has happened today, which in the council meeting recently, when I was invited to respond, those were the words, please respond, I was then prevented from responding. Again today, I'm being prevented
I
from
think
responding.
you are drifting off now, Councillor.
And
I
finally,
that's
one
all
more
right.
thing.
I haven't got a ding button, so don't worry.
Ding, ding.
Oh, I have.
One final point, which is to remind you that there is a whole universe of information that did not appear in the complaint, and that has yet to be discovered by legal process, and we'll follow with that. Thank you.
Thank you indeed, Councillor. Is there any further debate? Councillor Thomas.
Yeah, thank you. It's just really in reply to a comment that I've just heard that I wasn't engaging in the shadow cabinet member, in the culture member. She did approach me, and I did say that if she popped her ideas down on an email, I would be happy to look at them, but I never received an email. So that was just in response to what I've just heard. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything further from anybody? In which case, let me move to the vote. All those in favour, please indicate.
Unanimous, Chair.
Thank you very much indeed. And finally, on a more happier note, before I close the meeting, I would just like to mention that it's already been mentioned this evening, it is Joe Williams' final Cabinet meeting. Joe, I want to say on behalf of myself, the Cabinet, all of the rest of the members, it's been an absolute delight, pleasure to work with you. Thank you for everything that you've done for us, and we sincerely hope you have a wonderful, what is it again? Retirement, that's the word. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you very much indeed, ladies and gentlemen. This meeting is closed.